We got Gators Breakdown here. We know we're business.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
Oh, and it's not going to be dull tonight. If you're watching me on YouTube, you know why. Or if you've been following Twitter all day, you know why. Right here on Gators Breakdown, I am David Waters, your host. You can find me at GatorDave_SEC on social media. And, of course, tonight joined by the duo at Hightop Sports, Shelton and Dave. Guys, thanks for hopping on Gators Breakdown. And as always, plenty to discuss.
Yeah, as they say, if a bird, have you ever heard the saying, if a bird takes a dump on you or poops on you, then it's good luck? Well, 4th of July, we were in downtown Woodstock, and I'm sitting there on a bench, and then we're underneath the tree, and all of a sudden I get a little bit of bird poop on my hand, and I'm like, okay, well, I walk into the brewery and I wash off, and I say, well, recruiting hasn't been going so well. Maybe this is a good sign. So we'll see what happens.
I haven't been pooped on in quite some time, so maybe I'm not up for any good luck here, but I appreciate you having me on the show, Dave. Mama, I made it. We're here, boys. I'm excited for a good show, man. Thank you.
Hey, if that's good luck, can we get like a flock of birds just to fly over the swamp and dump all over the swamp?
Yeah, I'll take over the team. You can just poop all over me, birdies. Never seen it.
Maybe that's what we need. Maybe that's what we need. Look, we're not even a minute into the show. Little I know this is where it would go in the first 2 minutes of the show. So
leave it to me, Dave. Leave it to me.
Yeah. I'm not taking credit for this one.
All right, yeah, plenty to discuss. Of course, we'll go back a little bit late last week, and some people probably didn't miss it, but not. I know you guys have discussed it a bit, but Tim Brando and the whole Florida Gator toxic fan base comments there. We'll talk about a little bit of recruiting. I know that's been a hot topic, a little concern going on there. And if we got some time at the end, we'll talk about a little bit of a acceptable record. Of course, I got with you guys last month on your show, returning the favor right here. Season coming up, SEC Media Days next week, kind of the unofficial kickoff for the season. Florida announces today Graham Mertz, Montreal Johnson, and Shamar James. Not guys. We'll get that right quick. Not really surprised it was those three. I was either thinking Shamar or Cam Jackson on defense, but I was pretty positive it was be Graham Mertz and Montreal Johnson on the offensive side.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect trio to go lead the way. You got to think that the head of the three-headed monster of that team. Those are the big three guys that are leading the way for sure. Would have loved Trey. Would have loved Trey though.
Yeah, I heard
he's got some time.
Yeah,
I saw the guest for SEC Media Days, and obviously Jason Marshall's not in there. He was last year, and he said something about shocking the world and all that, and it didn't turn out that way. So I don't really care who the guests are as long as they tell the truth this time, because that's what I really want to happen after SEC Media Days.
As a content creator, as a fan as well, but as a content creator, you guys know this as well. Give me somebody who's going to talk a lot, and I think all three of these guys will. So.
He definitely got the good personalities out of the bunch this time.
I think we were shocked last year, so Jason wasn't wrong. It was just the wrong shock that we were looking for.
Good point.
But yeah, Shamar and Montreal, and I haven't spoke with much Montreal, but I've seen the interview with Graham and Shamar. Those guys they're fun personalities, and I think they'll give you flavor. They're very reserved, and they're not going to go, we're going to shock the world. But I feel like you'll get a pretty good pulse of how the team's going from those guys, just based on the interviews we've conducted and we've watched in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, especially, I got the lucky pleasure of sitting down at Spurrier's, and I was with my buddy Carlos. You know Carlos, Dave. And we sat down, and we were right beside a table. But he didn't even know Graham Mertz was sitting there at the table. He didn't even look. So I said, hey, how'd you get a table with Graham Mertz? Long story short, we asked him, for a picture and all that. Nicest guys could be. Funny as anything, great personality. So, yeah, I'm very, very pumped to watch SEC Media Days this year.
Yeah, me too. I knew it was going to be those guys. I mean, Montreal's been with Napier since Louisiana. It's his last year. It's Mertz's last year. Of course, they're going to go. But there was some flexibility on the defensive side, but they got it right. So, all right, everybody, we'll get to it right here. Hit that like button. Subscribe right here on Gators Breakdown, right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform if you haven't done so yet. And also, I don't know if you guys saw it, Florida Victorious, that big announcement today. You can win 2 tickets to the Florida-Texas game. Just go putting you up in hotel. I think it's 3 days or something like that. A pregame party and meet and greet, all that good stuff. So I know you donate to Florida Victorious to get entered, all that good stuff. So, man, whoever wins that's a good one.
Yeah, if people don't know even what the hotels are like now just for the Miami game, imagine what they're going to be for Texas, and you're getting 3 days on top of that. That's and the tickets and everything else. That's a lot of money Florida Victorious shelling out for somebody.
Really cool giveaway.
Yeah, I think so too. So, all right, let's get into the topics, guys. We'll go back to the Tim Brando last week, which I'm not a big Tim Brando fan. We had our falling out years ago on Twitter, and look, it was just a simple disagreement, no name calling until he actually started the name calling. And then blocked because I just a simple disagreement of, if I remember right, it was something about LSU had like a hurricane game that was canceled or whatever, and it was against like Troy or somebody like that. And I think there was some kind of conversation, and I replied back to saying, he was adamant that, this game against a cupcake was going to hurt LSU in the college football playoff or the BCS rankings. I forgot what it was at the time. That's how long ago it was. And I was like, no, this is not really going to hurt LSU. And he got his panties in a bunch and went all mad and blocked. So whatever, you got
a track record, David, just taking people off on Twitter. just saying, I usually it's not you, but I think there's a commonality here, Dave. You're always involved with it.
Lightning rod.
Did you message him back and say it's not that deep, man?
It's just the Daves. It's both of you guys. This one down here. This one, he
I don't do anything.
He brings all the heat.
I do nothing.
Dave, you get it unannounced. I don't know how you just get drug into it all the time. I don't know.
I just report the news. That's all I do.
Yeah.
Don't mistake kindness for weakness. Yeah, maybe that's the way to put it.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is, Dave. Yeah, it's because you'll come back and it's like, my God, they just got bodied like, in the clouds. I'm like, you no need to get on water's bad side because you just don't see it coming. You're like, yeah, okay, he's right.
That's what Blue Orange Gators for, man.
Yeah, there we go. We got our side the fan base that will handle all that good stuff. But anyway, Tim Brando last week on the Crane and Company show. Put out there, quote, Florida's fan base is so toxic, and I don't mind pissing you off, Florida fans. I really don't. You got to know who and what you are. And yes, Steve Spurrier did great things for you, but where was that program beforehand? Nowhere. After he leaves, had a real quick trigger on Ron Zook. Real quick. I don't think Zook did an awful job. Urban comes in, and you had this player who was so transformative with Tim Tebow. That's how you got on that run. The Florida people believe, hell, we're as good as Alabama. We're as good as Michigan. Brando ended it with, no, you're not. Well, I haven't seen many Florida fans claim that to begin with. But look, I couldn't care less what happened before Florida supposedly took off under Spurrier. That doesn't mean you automatically revert back to what you were before. Florida had some hits of success before Spurrier, nothing really consistent, but there were some hits there, some success. But the dynamics for Florida have certainly changed since then. The population boom in the state, just college football overall has changed. But, Florida fans, we shouldn't have to go back and accept what Florida was before Steve Spurrier. That's not how any of this works. Is Florida a blue blood? No. They're probably more of a new blood, but probably somewhere in between those two monikers for college football teams. So to me, it's just a lazy argument by someone that obviously hates Florida. Obviously, he hates Florida fans. He made that pretty clear in what he had to say last week. And this has been said over and over again, take away any program's two best coaches and see where those programs are after that. It's much of the same. That's kind of a dumb argument as well. So do that for any program. There aren't many that's going to pass an eye test. So look, Florida for Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier, they just didn't stick around long enough. The success was there, but you didn't get the Bear Bryant for staying however long, Nick Saban for staying however long. I would have loved for Steve Spurrier to hang around longer and Urban Meyer hang around longer. But that kind of contributes to, I guess, to what he's saying. I guess it all in all, summarized, are Florida fans crazy? Absolutely. We're crazy. Toxic? No. Look, we see it every day. I'm crazy. You guys are crazy. Florida fans are crazy. We know it. We do hold ourselves to a high standard, but to me, that doesn't make it doesn't make it toxic. Florida's no different than any other major power program out there. But any other major program with the results Florida has had recently, and tell me those fan bases won't be acting the same way.
Yeah, we discussed this last week on Hightop, and I said pretty much the same thing you did. Is like you can take away anything from any program, it's not going to make a big difference, right? The biggest thing that I took away from that, and he says, I don't care if you make anybody mad or if I make anybody mad. I laughed when I heard that comment. I thought it was funny because I'm just like, that makes no sense at all. And I said it was loser mentality. Like, you can't sit there and say that, like, if you take away whatever, on top of that, he's talking about laying down a foundation, which, okay, I get the part of laying down a foundation, but did Dan Lanning go to Oregon and say, hey, I'm going to slow down on the 5 stars. I'm just going to lay down a foundation real quick and all that? No, I mean, the success at Florida speaks for itself. And once you have a taste of that success, you're itching for that again. So once you've won a national championship, like that's what the fans want after that. That's any program. I mean, how many times do we have to see Notre Dame ranked really high every year, all the way to until we get to the end of the year and they're unranked? I mean, it's like there is blue blood programs out there, and I get that. But at the same time, it's, calling the fan base toxic and all that. I think it was just it's something to try to draw clicks, get people's reaction and all that, because you can go to any fan base and you're going to run into some sort of, I guess, toxicity with some little small group of fans that are out there on the internet. And those are the ones you just really don't talk to. And eventually you just block and you move on with your life. So I agree with you. There's nothing that I would say that I don't agree with, but at the same time, it's just, I'm ready for football season, so we don't have to hear these bad takes anymore from all these people. I don't know about you, Shelton, but hey, man, I'm sitting here waiting for SEC Media Days. So.
Shelton, to me, it seemed a little personal.
Yeah, it came from a place. Again, you said he spent, I think, 15 minutes on telling us how Florida is irrelevant. Well, it took you 15 minutes to tell us the history of Florida football. And again, and that doesn't seem very long, but in a nutshell, it's like you took a long time to tell us about our little stint. Toxically, I think it's passion. It's fanatical. That's what you want a fan base. We love you as hard as you can possibly love. And when things are not going well, there's a counter to that. I relate to it because that's my personality. I'm the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and that's where we find ourselves right now. I love how you bring me on the show when it's turmoil with Florida football right now, because things are not going the way we would like them to go, and this is where the fan base goes to. It's in the middle of July. The recruiting's not going well. We're getting poked by FSU, by Miami. We're irritated. We're hot. We're in Florida. It's in a swamp. We're hungry. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we're going to be a little probably rambunctious more than we should. But it's because we care, because we want success, and sometimes we don't know how to position our passion. But toxic. I said, yeah, we can be toxic. But
right.
Again, I think that word kind of carries a negative connotation to it, and that's how he was implying it. Obviously, I don't think we carry it in a negative way, though.
And my thing is, it kind of going to the point that you made. There's a reason a Florida Gator head coach wants to come to Florida. Because of the fan base. There's a reason he gets paid a whole lot of money because of the fan base. I mean, it's just, as you said, when it's good, I mean, the support is about as good as you can get. I mean, everybody outside of Gainesville, we'll talk about how electric the swamp is, how the support in the swamp is. As you said, I mean, it is a pretty interesting dynamic. It is the high of highs and the low of lows. Yeah, we can be crazy. We can be toxic, but to label the overall fan base, to label the fan base is toxic. No, I just that don't fly well with me. And I also don't think. And I think I don't know if you guys have heard. I've certainly have heard it. And Dave, I know you have too. Shelton, maybe you have. The way we cover the team is toxic. Like yesterday, I'm sitting here talking about preseason magazines now, not me, not my list, putting Billy Napier on a hot seat. I've covered preseason magazines every single year I've done Gators Breakdown. I can't help what's in them. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. I wish he wasn't on a hot seat list, but here we are talking about it and get labeled as toxic because, you're going to hurt the program talking about this stuff. I don't change what I do because of if it's, good or bad. I'm not going to dig my head in the sand. I'm going to go with the flow. And if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean.
I do admire you and commend you on that, because that's something that I've struggled with. Obviously, I get labeled as a sunshine pumper, trying to bring positivity and excitement, but sometimes there just isn't much really to be fired up about. And so when you try to talk about kind of what is the reality at hand, you get labeled as negative, pessimistic, you're bringing the logo down, like, no, it's just, we're having a conversation. I did a call-in show yesterday, had fans calling. It was actually kind of refreshing because it's very easy to get caught up in the comments and see what people are saying. Usually it's the negative ones and naysayers that are the loudest. So that then becomes almost a reality in your head. But I did the call-in show, a lot of positivity. A lot of people felt very optimistic about going into the season, what their expectations are, what they're hoping to see. A lot of, I would say, real expectations, right? In the sense of like what's reasonable and what they're happy with and what they want to see. And all of it's the same, right? I think that's 7-5, 8-4 is that realistic expectation, not with a possible 9-3, but ultimately want to see progress moving forward. So that was refreshing to hear last night, even with, again, a 60th ranked recruiting class right now. I know we're going to get into it, but
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that. No, but you guys are explaining perfectly why I say I just report the news, because Dave, all you're doing is just reporting the news, and some people like it, some people don't. So that's like the hardest part for people like us in media, is to tell you the truth, but try to deliver it in a way to where you won't get as upset, or it's a hard field to navigate, I guess. But at the same time, you want to be transitional and you want to be honest with the fan base as well. And I think, Dave, you do a really good job of it. Of course, me and Shelton, we get a little bit more sillier. We're more the fanatic side of it, and we like to entertain and all that. But at the end of the day, man, when you look at it, and then the way the recruiting is now, we're going to get into it, and how years 1 and 2 went. Yes, there's going to be people in the fan base that feel apathetic at the moment. And I think you said it, I can't remember, a couple episodes or whatever, you said something, there was apathy in the fan base. It was something else, but then it wound up turning out to not be as bad. But like, there's a little bit, but also at the same time, there's still some, there's still some confidence that the Florida Gators, with returning 68+% production in the team, that there are fans out there that are pretty confident that, hey, we can go in there and we can win 7-8+, and maybe even more than that. So it's just a mixture right now. When the way recruiting's going right now, there's a lot of people that are, jumping more on the apathetic train. But at the same time, it is only July. I hate saying that because I know people don't like that, but we got to see how the season unfolds and how December unfolds too, recruiting.
All right, yeah, we'll turn the page there, and I guess the question is, should you be worried? Should you be concerned? As you said, it is only July. People will take that aspect to it, sitting at 8 commits right now. And look, I think we all knew the summer was not going to be anywhere near the summer we saw last year. I think that was just pretty apparent from coming off of another losing season and trying to build now another recruiting class in that, with the hot seat talk, with questions surrounding this program and what Billy Napier's trying to build. It was going to be a little bit slower this summer. It wouldn't be that great. It's probably still a little worse than I thought. Like, I thought, okay, there'll be some big names that'll hop on board by now. It hasn't happened. There's some still big names still to come in July that hopefully, possibly, probably should hop on board, but we'll see when it gets there. But it is a little worse than I thought it would be. I thought a bigger name or two would be on the board right now, but we all know it was going to be wait and see approach for many. We've heard that interview after interview that some guys are just wait and see, and we'll see what that holds in the fall. But how many can you realistically flip? Even with a good season, right? And a good season will make some noise, but I don't think it will translate overall to a class that we will deem successful in closing any sort of gap with the big boys in the nation and the big boys in the SEC.
Yeah, a lot of people like me, especially, we've been looking for that top 5 class. We had a taste of it last season during the summer. Obviously, it fell off a cliff towards signing day. You were able to make up a little bit for it in the transfer portal, and you wound up at the number 7 class. But yeah, I mean, when I wrote an article about recruiting, and I said, look, is there going to be fireworks in July or is there not? And I put bold face. I said, this is 6/21. This is June the 21st. This is recruiting. Things can change minute by minute, second by second. So don't take what I say and say, well, David said that, he was feeling good about this. They went somewhere else, because that's how recruiting is now, especially in the NIL world as well. You see a lot more flips. You see a lot more crazy recruits, like the one that went to Wallace, that went to Arkansas. I mean, nobody saw that coming, because he had 3 finalists that weren't even. It was Florida, Florida State, and Georgia. Like, how would you pick Arkansas? So, I mean, it's gotten crazier. So, I mean, to say that, to me, I don't think you're going to see a crazy amount of flips if we have a good season. If you win 10 games, we better see something. But like, I don't think you're going to see that. But like I said, it's NIL, and you got the transfer portal, the instant transfer as well. Like, anything could really happen towards the end of December if you have a good season.
That's what bothers me is I take a look at the class, I see what's happening. I'm going to talk about it in my show at 9. Malik Autry talked about, look, I want to see what happens on the field. We've heard a lot of that from a lot of guys of we want to see what happens. And that's great. That's fantastic. Let's say they go 8-4, 9-3. There's going to be a lot of optimism heading into next season. But when Auburn flipped our class last year, took a few guys, a couple players took a few guys, Oregon made a late push at the end there, finished top 5 or close to a top 5. They were already sitting in a pretty healthy position, right? 15, 12. The leaps weren't crazy. Right now, where we sit, and let's say we do have what I'm clamoring as a juicy July, we pop a 3 to 4 more, but that number is dwindling by the day. It seems like we're sitting pretty far back on where we need to be. And even still, if we have a great big push, most of these guys, as long as they're going to be committed, you're not going to flip everybody. Right. I did speak to it yesterday with Miami. Again, we've lost a few battles with them. They're in a way, they're in the same boat as Florida is, but because they're recruiting their tails off, sitting number 8 currently, it's diminishing what the reality is. And again, this isn't a shot. This isn't me going after Miami, but they're in no different position. They haven't had any winning. They've had 6-win seasons, but nothing to really write home about. The recruiting classes have been fantastic over the past 3, both finishing in the top 5. They are riding on that and coming in with a bunch of talent heading into this season. But if they lose that first game, everything's going to flip right to Mario as it is on Billy right now. But because of their recruiting class, he's just pushing off of what could be. Where Billy and co, because of the recruiting class, it just puts all the eyes back on him. Even Pittman's kind of avoiding the nonsense because of the last splash with Tavion Wallace. Again, nothing. It's not going to save the program, but it's at least a little something to bring the heat off. And again, Arkansas doesn't carry the same weight as Florida. Mm-hmm. Neither does South Carolina. So talking about Shane Beamer and Sam Pittman in July, not exciting. South Carolina fans, they're like, whatever. And Arkansas is like, wait a minute. They don't even know if Pittman's there or not. I think I thought he got fired last year. I'm still convinced that he was. I'm not quite sure what happened with that.
I'm waiting on that.
Bobby Petrino's just the puppet behind. He's puppet master this season. That's what we should label the Arkansas season. Puppet master Petrino.
I'm waiting on that Hail Mary against Vanderbilt, not going out of the stands, and we kind of just pass them up in recruiting.
Lincoln Riley too, Army Sniper. That's another one that's in a weirdly hot seat as well. Because I think he was positioned very well at USC to have some major success with a Heisman. I mean, talk about a blunder of a season. I mean, there's other schools that are having bigger blunders in a weird way than we are. But again, Florida, we don't care. I understand that. But it's just there's a lot of coaches out there that are in a similar seat than Billy. But I think Billy has an opportunity to, in a way, because again, he can go 8-4, 9-3, and that is a major success for Napier and the Gators. For other schools, that's kind of like, okay, it's okay, but not a major success.
Yeah, Miami's going to be an interesting case study since Florida does play them, but I don't think, because they're in the ACC, and I do think they're a better team than what they were last year because of what they've done in recruiting the last couple of cycles and the transfer portal. That doesn't mean they're going to go win the ACC. That doesn't mean they're going to be a college football playoff contender, but I think that saves them from a 5-7 season because they play in the ACC and they've upgraded their talent level. But they're going to be an interesting case study because maybe they are a lot like what Florida did last year. Maybe they don't have a successful season. Does that class fall apart a lot like Florida's class fell apart last year? But I just don't know if it falls that deep. We know there's a big difference between the SEC and the ACC. But at the same time, 8 wins is 8 wins in a lot of recruits' eyes. They don't care if it's in the SEC or the ACC. It's 8 wins is better than 6 wins. And that's I think that's in a way, that's kind of what we're seeing when some of these recruits are comparing Miami and Florida right now.
So you're saying we need to be like Georgia and schedule Austin Peay and all those players, Ball State every year?
I would hope that 8 wins would carry more weight. And I think the biggest thing is too, because we hear it, right? This person's paid more. And I love when Gator fans say, look, if we shouldn't pay more, you should want to be a Gator. And I hear you. And I'm all for it. I just think the reality no more. No. And I think that's where people have to, again, the brain carries weight. With the younger generation, it does not carry the same weight. When they came in and started watching football, understanding what was going on, Florida was what we recently remember it as. It's not what we cherish. And it doesn't carry the same weight with them. So we're going to have to pay up. We're going to have to probably spend on some areas. And what comes with that is winning. And I think that's going to involve the boosters some more. We have our Oregon channel. We talk about them. I mean, Phil Knight's all in. He says their budget's unlimited, and it's going to be talked about this season. I think more for Oregon when they start winning more. That's frightening when you've got one guy that's got the B in front of his name and billionaire. It's a dangerous look. I think Florida has a ton of mini billionaires, right? That get equal up to it. But if they're not getting what they want on the football field, they're going to clinch tight to that wall. And I think that's where we're at too right now.
Man, that brings up a point, and Dave knows that I've kind of preached this on our Gators Breakdown Plus Discord. That's one reason I wanted to quote unquote overspend early on in Napier's tenure. I think it would have created a heavier talent acquisition at the beginning, hopefully equated to some more wins. That's how you get people on board with NIL. When there was a lot of questions around NIL when Billy Napier first started, but one way to get everybody on board is to win some games. To win some games, you got to get the talent. So I was willing to overspend, because I think some of us saw that's the direction NIL was going to go. They didn't really want to wait around to see if it was going to stabilize or try and take advantage of it later because you didn't know what the rules were at the time. Take advantage of it early on. And I think if you more people would be on board, I think, if there was this is not just a Napier thing, a UAA thing, a Scott Strickland thing, an administration thing. It wasn't just, pinning that on Billy Napier. There shouldn't have been all the ducks in a row. This is what we need to do to bring the talent in. Let's get everybody on board now. If you show some progress early on, I don't think NIL would be as much. I mean, Florida's NIL is good. It's good. It's not Oregon. It's not some of the other big programs out there. It's enough to be competitive, not championship competitive, but competitive, and then let coaching take over. But at this point, I think early on was kind of where that fumble was there was a chance to get a lot of people in on NIL, and the progress just wasn't shown early.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think at the beginning, the sense of urgency kind of with Billy Napier, and I know he has his own process and he likes to do I guess he's a little bit more methodical, and he kind of has it all more detailed and planned out. I think, when it first started, you're correct on this, Dave. I think especially when you get a new head coach, I think that's when the boosters should go all in, is right when you get a new head coach. You can get the talent, you can see what he can do with it. And then if it doesn't work out, bring somebody else in, whatever. But if you have early success, as you said, the NIL is not going to matter as much because these kids do see you winning. And on top of that, NIL has changed the game now. Now you see schools that would normally land an elite recruit, but the elite recruit saying, hey, look, well, this guy just got this NIL package over here. You're not going to pay me this here, but this school is. So I'm going to go here. Because a lot of kids are thinking, hey, look, I know I'm worth this. This kid's getting paid this. I'm going to go here because they're going to offer me this instead of going to Alabama or go to Georgia. They'll maybe go to hopefully Florida at some point, but like some other school that you would never think. Like I said, the Arkansas thing with Wallace. So I think a lot of that has changed the game as well. But I think the strategy of like you said, Dave, is going all in when you first hire the coach. And I think like the slow process in the portal is kind of what hurt Billy Napier as well. You didn't really see him jumping on guys when he needed to obviously everybody talks about the Mullen guys and flushing them out. Well, you had a chance to flush out the ones you wanted instead of keeping them, bring in some talent from the portal. We saw that we saw a little bit of talent come in through, but like it could have been a lot better, I think, in the portal the first couple of cycles.
I can't take credit for it because Army Sniper mentioned it last night on the Collins show that I praised it, right? When Billy first came in, he was very methodical in how he operated in the first couple of months. Didn't really push a lot of guys out. And I was like, I like that. I feel like he didn't come in. He didn't want to push anyone around, wanted to earn the respect. And 40 of those guys end up leaving anyways. Mm-hmm. And it's like, what respect did you really earn? It didn't pay you any dividends. And it kind of speaks to that as well, where it's like, I'm going to go in and be myself, be Billy, recruit, earn respect to these guys. And they may respect him. And the biggest commonality is Billy's a great guy. Love him to death. But the nice guy gets left on the side of the road. And that's kind of what happened is they're like, you know what, this is great, but it's not going in the direction that we were recruited for because they weren't recruited by Billy. This wasn't I wasn't recruited for this structure or what have you. Love you, think you're a great dude. Not what I want. He ends up getting burned. And look, he'll probably die on that throne of like, I'm not going to change who I am. And, kudos to him, but you're also not gonna have a job come because of that. So look, I think you net on the head that they had an opportunity and again, it doesn't just fall on Billy. It falls at the top of the totem pole of if you're going to go hire this guy, you saw where the blunder of Mullen went. Mullen was a really good hire. I think we could all agree that there was a ton of excitement. I thought he was going to come in and turn the thing around. I was like, we're going back to the Mullen era, right? Because you're bringing in a taste of that. He understands how to win, has had some success at Mississippi State, had Dak Prescott. I was like, this is the guy.
And we all know how it ended with me and Mullen. He was my number one guy. He was who I wanted when Florida made that hire in 2018. Going to your point there.
Yeah, and we see how that ended out. And so the next guy, you go out and you go and get someone like a Billy Napier for the reasons that you didn't like about Dan. We'll give him everything he needs to go be that guy. And his guy was recruiting, and we're headed into the money era. Like you said, go give him every asset that he needs to be the best at that, because he was good at it, but he still wasn't the best. And now again, we're just in this mediocre, area in every category like we have been for the last few years. So
overpay early so you don't have to overpay late.
Yep.
And now we're playing catch up, right? It doesn't even matter if you pay now, because it's like, look, everyone's paying now. And I'm guaranteed this coach is going to be here for 2 years. And I even said too, I said, look, we may pay them the same or more and guarantee them a starting spot. But now someone like an Oregon or a Texas will pay $1 million more, and they may not get a starting spot, but we may guarantee them a starting spot. But they also will, hey, Bill, you may not be here, and the next coach isn't guaranteeing me a starting spot. So in reality, I'm taking less money for non-certainty when I can take the same or a little bit more and know that I may not start, but I know where I'm going to be at. I won't know where I'm going to be at next year with you. And I think that's where we're at, which sucks.
Yeah. Hey, and the thing is, and we've seen it. We saw it with the transfer portal last year or last cycle for Florida. If Billy does go out there and Florida wins some ball games this year, and guys don't like their current spot, well, you know what? They'll hop in the portal. I mean, that's why you keep that relationship going, and that's why, if he does go out there and overcome the expectations, and guys did decide to go somewhere else to begin with, whether it be a high school recruit, whether it be one guy 1 year down the road, they could end up finding themselves, back to Florida either. But you don't want to have to bank on that. You don't want to have to say, oh, well, there's the portal. You don't want to have to just rely on that at this point when recruiting was really supposed to be the strength of Billy Napier coming in, with the Alabama background, what he did at Louisiana, coming here and kind of shoring up what we didn't see under Dan Mullen. So, guys, I'm going to try and quickly kind of go through some of the positions, some of the storylines of why there might be concern about recruiting right now. Of course, 2 safety targets committing to rivals lately, Hilton Stubbs to Miami, of course, then Jalen Morgan today to Georgia. Morgan, that name was kind of coming in late, so there wasn't a whole lot behind that one. But that pretty much leaves big targets, Bryce Fitzgerald and Lagonza Hayward. There's some thought that Fitzgerald is the most likely, but recently named FSU his leader last week. I do expect that to be a fight until his August decision. Florida was looking great for Hayward coming out of his visit, but Tennessee got a visit a week later. They may be trending right now in that one, so we'll see where that one goes. But there's your 2 big names at safety. And I think we all knew when Stubbs was kind of trending Miami, all right, well, Hayward, you had some good reviews. You got to go get him. You got to get Fitzgerald out of this. We'll see how that turns out. So, have lost out on the high-profile targets at safety with Stubbs, but now have a lot of work to make Fitzgerald and Hayward, choose the Gators. Maybe things could be better at linebacker, but it will be wait-and-see decisions. 3-star Miles Johnson decommitted from Alabama last week, with Florida being the trending school. One of the top options at the position last week, as Dave mentioned, Tavion Wallace shocks everybody last week, commits to Arkansas over Florida, FSU, and Georgia, when it did seem like if it was going to be a surprise, Florida was going to be the surprise. But it didn't turn out that way. And then number 1 linebacker Ty Jackson seems to be trending Florida or Georgia, but a decision not expected anytime soon. He looks to be in attendance for Florida versus Miami earlier in the season. And that linebacker as well, Nathaniel Owosu-Boateng from IMG, has Florida in his top 5 with Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, USC. He's taking official visits to those schools in the summer, but plans to take one to Florida in the fall with a decision late season. And then this was kind of a surprise for me. 4-star Georgia linebacker Christian Gass doesn't have Florida in his final 3 when it looked like Florida was the trending school at one point. But I think when you look at it, wide receiver is the position best lined up. We talked about that with the big names. You got the commitment of Joshua Moore so far, and then the decisions of legacy Vernell Brown III, Nashawn Montgomery looming. Florida looking good for those guys. Really have to get Brown in this class to feel somewhat better about this class. It would be a failure of a class if he's not in it. And I think the worry with Montgomery, he delayed his decision. Does that hurt Florida in the end? Is he waiting to see what Penn State does at that spot? Apparently, they have some guys in front of him. Is he just kind of waiting to see, or does Florida end up getting him as well? But you can see wide receiver, probably the best-looking spot overall right now. Hopefully, Florida can close on those spots. Some not-so-good news. Legacy cornerback Ben Hanks Jr., I'm hearing it's more of a Miami-Louisville battle right now, with Florida on the outside looking in. So that's, that was some news I got over the weekend.
You could be a negative, Dave. I thought you were, what are dragging me through the mud here?
Oh,
God,
yeah.
I thought we were past that.
No, I mean, that was one that did surprise me over the weekend.
That's our whole big board there, Dave. I don't,
like I said, linebacker, it's a wait and see. There's some names there that can certainly be there. Wide receiver as well. But quickly going through just the rest of the positions right quick. We know what happened at quarterback. Ron Montgomery, Antoine Hill, Keelan Russell, Tramel Jones, all committed elsewhere. So Florida's still looking for that quarterback. If not a necessarily sign one for high school, maybe go transfer portal there. I think bringing in a highly ranked quarterback every year is great, but you have Lagway, past class, Will Griffin the next. That does soften the blow a little bit. I prefer to take a quarterback every cycle, but I don't think you reach here. And you have to probably go portal this cycle if you don't do anything there. Running back, we're done. Clark Gasper there. Wide receiver, we discussed. Tight end, you're done with Gelsey and Jones. Offensive line is kind of scary because there's just not much going on there. Name-wise.
Has there ever been?
yeah. But still, I mean.
We don't need it. It's fine. You see the speed from wide receivers? It's fine. We don't need it.
But here's the thing. Numbers overall, on the current roster are finally in a good spot for the offensive line. I think that's there. There wasn't going to be a big offensive line class anyway. So my thing was, this was a chance to really just hone in on like 2-3 big, highly ranked, monsters that you want to bring on the offensive line, and there's just nothing there. I mean, it was going to be a small class to begin with, but it was a really chance to just focus on, going and just throwing everything at some of the highly rated offensive linemen. But now it probably looks like you had Enoch Wango in this class, but he did reclassify, so that's kind of a disclaimer with this. But still, it wasn't the high. It was more of another project along the offensive line. Former commit Peyton Joseph just committed to Florida State. Solomon Thomas looks to be sticking with the Noles too. So not much traction with some of the top names out there. And we talked defense mostly earlier, but if we go up front, I do like what Florida has in Jalen Wiggins and Jeremiah McLeod. But doesn't seem to be many more options there right now outside of those commits. And what was pretty disappointing news as well is Jarquez Carter. Florida's not in his final group, and he's another that he just wants to stress he wants to see what Florida looks like in the fall. He wants to see how the defensive line is going to be used because he didn't like the lack of aggression last year in the play style last season. He wants to see the defensive line get upfield more. I'm not ready to write him off just yet, but it did sting a bit when you're not in his final four. So it's just more work to be done. Honestly, that's probably just the overall theme. There is a lot of work still to be done when a lot of teams out there are getting their commits in June and July.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, too, is a lot of these kids, they want to commit before their season starts. And some of them, I mean, once they're committed, I can't remember what the statistic was, and Bill Sykes does a really good job of breaking down recruiting, is once a kid's committed, I think it's like a 30-some-odd% chance it could flip, something like that. It could be less than that. A lot of these kids have mentioned that they're going to the Miami game, and we've seen where Florida, when they played Tennessee last year, they got a couple of commitments off of that. I think Waltez Clark committed that game as well. I mean, they see there, they go there, the atmosphere, they hear the crowd, and then you win a big game, and they're like, okay, well, I got a ditch to check out Florida now, or I want to commit to Florida. So you have a couple of visits and official visits, especially in game one, that you can really, at least turn the tide a little bit. I mean, Malik Autry came out today and said, I want to see what Florida does. He's currently committed to Auburn. You got Stubbs that said that too. Obviously, he committed to Miami, but you never know. Maybe we have a good season. Maybe he changes his mind and flips that. And then, as you said, Clark, same thing. So I think a lot of these kids are writing on how good the season goes. But at the same time, how many times have we heard a kid say, oh, well, I'm going to wait on this, or I'm 100,000% committed and I'm shutting it down like we had last year. And then they go and commit somewhere else towards the end of the cycle. Kids do say things and then they change their mind. But at the same time, like if you're putting results out there on the field, that's going to turn their head anyway. And we talk about the offensive line, and I'm not the biggest Hevesy, Rob Sale kind of guy. I feel like we've just been going down the same hole with offensive linemen, but I will say credit to the staff for getting bigger, taller, heavier offensive linemen than what we've had before in the past. That might help out a little bit as far as development goes, and with this change of strength and conditioning and all that. And it's just, I think when you start winning football games this late in the cycle, or especially in year 3, okay, well, it might be too late, but at the same time, Napier can always push to these kids like, hey, look, I had to build it up. I started winning in year 3. Think how much we can really win in year 4 with DJ Lagway at the helm as a number 1 quarterback, Gatorade Player of the Year, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he still has a lot of good pitches he could make, but he's got to win football games first.
You got me depressed, Dave. I don't know what you want me to do. You just beat me down for like 10 minutes. At Jarquez, I don't know, Jahara's Carter, the lineman, the 6'12" lineman that committed today
to Georgia.
Yeah. I saw Neil say that because Hayes put over Florida, and he quoted it and said we didn't have an offer in. I could have swore we led the way. Like, it was like a Florida lock.
That's what he said at his visit.
Yeah, so I was like, when he didn't have an offer, I was like, wait, hold on, Neil. That was upsetting. Again, because I think he's a day one contributor. He would be part of the team now. That was going to be a 2024 recruit. And again, he's not going to knock any stats off with his numbers because he was like a basketball player, but massive size project. And with us not having much going on, it would, in my sense, be part of that 2025 class because it's part of the project and building guys up. Look, we all know I'm the Sunshine Pumper and like to be optimistic, but I'm starting to get beaten up with what's at hand here. Like we just went over, even if we do have a great season, the guys that we were leading for and had a great relationship with, we're not even in the top 3 and top 4. So how far back are we actually? It's not, you know what I mean? If we're in the top 3 and then, they commit elsewhere, it's like, okay, maybe we flipped them like a Hilton Stubbs, right? We were in his top 3, feel good. At least we're there. That's not a crazy. And again, top 4 and all that stuff, it's just whatever, but it feels like we're further behind than maybe we initially thought.
Yep.
And that's where, the frustrations are starting to mount. And like we said, this is what you were brought here for. It's like in golf, you got guys that are good at putting, chipping, driving, you drive for show, putt for dough. Billy, you're supposed to be putting for dough. You're not making a putt, big fella. You never drove, right? That was never your thing, which is landing offensive lineman, in my opinion. And now you're not putting. What's up? Frustrated.
I mean, that's what it is. I think it's just frustrating because at this point, you have a lot of ground to make up. And now maybe you do it, but the reality is you have a lot of ground to make up. And while some guys say we want to see what Florida does this fall first, that doesn't guarantee they're going to flip.
Yeah.
I think that's the part I look at it is just because Florida does good still doesn't mean they're guaranteed they're going to flip. And that's where my concern comes in.
We're in a dicey situation next year. Now, like you said, with the transfer portal, I feel like that is a saving grace to where, okay, you finish maybe 15th, 20th in recruiting, but maybe you do go get some guys that were committed last year, right? Like not a Grimsley, but in that category.
Yeah.
That are now going into their second year that you had a great relationship on, guys that we were coming down to the wire that put last minute, and they see like, hey, what they told us was real. We kind of jumped the gun too early. And so you have a top 5 transfer portal class, it would make up for it. And so that in my defense is like Billy in a way has kind of like built-in security ways that other coaches haven't had in the past that you can make up for blunders in a weird way with the transfer portal.
Yeah, and I think if you're smart, if I'm Billy Napier, what I'm doing is those first 6 games that you have, I'm getting as many official visits as you can because a lot of them are going to be at home. A lot of them are going to be against opponents that you can probably flip a coin and beat if you're playing very well on game day. The other half of that schedule, I mean, it gets pretty hard. LSU, you have Texas, you have Georgia. I mean, Florida State looks like a team now who lost a lot of people. I don't believe in DJU that much as well. So I think if I'm Billy Napier, I'm getting my visits set up on the first half of the schedule, maybe Florida State, somewhere in there to get these guys in here, let them see the atmosphere of the Swamp. And if you have a really big win in the Swamp as well, and it goes crazy, they might say, hey, look, this is what I could do at Florida. We talk about the portal. Shelton mentioned the portal and making up for that. And I know we had a really, really good portal class. I think it was top 5, and then our class was overall number 7. You got to remember, Jameer Grimsley and Zandamela fell into your lap. You got lucky with those because Nick Saban, he retires. Zandamela gets a little bit homesick, wants to come back home. So you did land a couple of guys, but that's not going to happen every cycle. So I think this cycle, if your recruiting class has 16, 17 guys by the end of it, maybe you get some really, really good elite quality guys in there. You're going to have to hit the portal really, really hard this time, and probably the hardest as much as you can. And we all know everybody tampers. Go ahead and tamper. Get these guys to the University of Florida, because, man, you have a 5-star quarterback next year. If you survive this recruiting cycle, you have a 5-star quarterback, and a lot of people would not want you wasting a number 1 5-star quarterback with surrounding him by talent that's going to get him sacked every play. So I think this is obviously the do or die year for Billy Napier. So I'm really curious to see how the first half of that schedule comes out. And if it does, you hit that first half of that schedule, and Will Miles has said it on our show a while back. He said, hey, look, you can afford some losses on that other half of the schedule. And maybe you make the Texas game interesting, or the LSU or the Georgia game interesting. Maybe you don't win those games, but how you lose those games maybe also what brings some more more fire to the University of Florida in recruiting as well. Say, hey, look, we were here, we almost got here. You know, we can get you here to the University of Florida. We can beat these teams eventually. So that's my way of thinking.
12 p.m. at Texas, is that real?
That's real.
Oh
no,
and Ole Miss. Are those can those change if Florida's undefeated going to those games? Would they be subject to change, or is that locked?
No? Those are locked. The only ones that can change are the Kentucky window from 3:30 to 8. Yeah. Tennessee's 3:30 to 8. So yeah, the other ones.
I like my big games and my tailgating. So I'm definitely going to UCF because it's a night game. So
Texas is okay, but Ole Miss, man.
I know the last home game of the season's a noon game.
Ruthless.
Shelton, I know you got to go. So the last question I'll ask here, and if Dave, are you on Shelton's show tonight?
No,
it's on Monday. Okay, all right. So if Dave can hang around maybe after, but I know Shelton will have to go. Last thing I'll end is, and while I got the schedule up here, acceptable record, and maybe it don't even have to be for you personally, or just kind of what you hear from Gator Nation on your side of things. I think you even said it earlier. I think a lot of Gator Nation's probably in that 6-6, 8-5 range. I think that's where most of Gator Nation lives. 6-6, 7-5, 8-4. I think that's where I see most of Gator Nation there. In that, of course, anything less than 6 is completely unacceptable in my eyes in year 3. I don't care how hard the schedule is. 6-6 in some ways is as well. 7-5, I think there's some good wins in there. 8, there's plenty of good wins in there. What I guess, how low can you go for an acceptable record? I guess in your eyes,
12-0, Dave. No,
I knew that was coming.
Oh, you're toxic if you expect to be undefeated.
Yeah, 6 just feels like you're accepting mediocrity. That's where I get frustrated with it. I think Billy fights for his right to fight at 6
to party.
Yeah, and if he's able to showcase DJ enough, I think he holds on. But again, I don't know, because this recruiting class is such a blender. A month and a half ago when there was some buzz, I felt like 6 was the number because, hey, the recruiting class is still going to do strong. I don't know if 6 is going to be the number anymore. I think 7 really has to be it to really turn some heads. And again, I feel like I'm kind of turning a little sour just because of where things are at right now. But like you said, so you get 6, you've got some solid wins in there. And I think it's going to be dependent on how those losses go, which is beating that drum. But how they look is going to be massive, because I actually, in my show here in just a little bit, I looked at the blue chip ratio, what we're bringing, and we're bringing in 63% of blue chip talent on the football field compared to what Michigan had last year. They only had 54%. Now there's 3 teams that we're playing. Georgia has 90% blue chip. Texas is like 70. And LSU, I believe, is the other one that is ahead of us. And Miami is like right behind us. So there's 4. And look, FSU and the other schools aren't higher than us. That means LSU, Ole Miss. But we know those 2 schools, or Ole Miss in a way, all their talent comes in from the transfer portal, which this is only talking about the recruits that you were bringing in. There was a whole other part which Ole Miss goes up with the transfer portal. But
okay.
So that leads you to believe that, look, there's, 4 three losses in my eyes kind of guaranteed in the sense of the talent that's coming in. Again, it's Georgia, Texas, and I think it was LSU. Maybe it was LSU. And again, Georgia and Texas. I think a lot of us are kind of scratching those games as L's just because of the talent, and those two teams are expected to go pretty far. So with the rest of it, again, I like 8 wins. I think that's not too unreasonable.
No, to me, it's not unreasonable. Or put it this way, maybe even better said, in year 3, it shouldn't be unreasonable. I mean, to me, if you're making progress, if this thing is being built the right way, I don't care how hard the schedule is. You've got to put wins together.
Yep.
Especially last year, right? I've preached it. Billy preached it. There's 2 games we argue. We say it all the time that we should have won. 4th and 17 against Mizzou, the Arkansas game. Well, there's your 7-5. So if that happens last year, our expectations are probably more closer to that 9-10 mark, right? Just because of we're building. So you're right. Again, if you should be winning those games, those 1-score games, because you should be getting progress. Yes, the schedule, and Cole Kublik said it best, it's logo fever. I think there's 8 to 9 winnable games. They're not going to be easy. They might be 1-score games, but at this point in your progress, you should be able to go over the hump. And the biggest thing that I keep going to, these teams that we're going up against, we have Graham Mertz. Look at the schedule. 80% of it is first-year quarterbacks or first-year transfer quarterbacks, things that we've been struggling with. We don't have those problems. So they're going to be tough. I expect them to be close. Florida, in my eyes, should carry the edge in those games if what we've been preaching, Billy's doing the right things, making the right steps. We have the quarterback presence. We have again, this is his offense now. He's not learning things, going through kind of figuring out the ins and outs of it, where other schools should be going through those struggles. And that's where Billy's got to really tap into that killer mentality and step on their throats like everybody's doing to us, like everybody's doing to us on the recruiting trail. They smell blood. They're using it to their advantage. Billy's not going to be there. No need to recruit. Well, they're giving me $3 million. I'll give you 3.5. And I can promise you I'll be here next year. That's what they're doing. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Billy's going to start eating. Everyone's having gator tail. We need to have some dogs.
There you go. I agree.
Somebody yell at me.
I think with the experience, and there is enough talent to be for 7-8 wins. Now it's about coaching. You got to have the coaching to take you to those 7-8. If it's more, of course, coaching is going to come into even more play there. But I think I'm comfortable saying there's enough talent for 7-8 wins. Billy Napier's got to coach his way to 7 or 8 wins.
Yeah, and I'll even put this in there, and not an elite Florida football team, and not a bad, but just a good Florida football team, a good Florida football team that we're used to seeing go 6-0
to start the season.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, no, we're Florida State. We don't count the losses, so we go 6-0 and then we just make the ring. That's how it works, Dave. You got to keep up. You got to keep up.
Dave, if you can hang around. Hey, Shelton, I know you got to go. I know you got your show. I don't want to keep you from that, man. Thanks for hopping on. We'll definitely do it again. But yeah, thanks for hopping on, giving your insight here and another angle to covering these crazy Gators.
It's a pleasure, man. It's an honor to be on the show, man. Thanks a billion for allowing me to come on and talk with you guys. I appreciate it. Gators by a million, boys.
There we go. Thanks, Shelton.
Love it.
Yep.
Dave. Acceptable record. I mean, I think you could probably just come off of Shelton's on this hill what he had to say there. But like I said, I think we all know where the comfortable mark is, or the comfortable expectations of a lot of people are. But yeah, I mean, it's anything more than 8, and I think, oh wow, that overcame the expectation.
Yeah, actually, re-looking at the first half, second half, that's a 7-0. I mean, come on, Kentucky, Tennessee, UCF, Mississippi State, A&M, probably be your hardest game, maybe Tennessee right there too. But like, come on, man, like a good Florida football team beats these teams easily. I mean, like a normal good football team, like we shouldn't be losing 3 years in a row to Kentucky. But like, if you look at the schedule, you break it down, and you ask me, as personally, just as me, not as me speaking for everybody else, just me personally as a fan, like, is 6 wins really going to make me happy? Probably not.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this is how I wanted to break it up a little bit. 6 wins, 7 wins. And all right, so say Samford and Mississippi State. There's 2 right there. To me, those are the 2 you should be able to write in a Sharpie marker. There's 2. All right, so now you got to pick 4 more to get to 6.
And the bye week, right?
But 4 more out of Miami, Texas A&M, UCF, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. You got to get 4 more out of that just to get the 6. And if you want to go by maybe how you would rank easiest to hardest, all right, would you go UCF next? Should that be win number 3?
I would say, and Florida State fans are gonna be mad at me. I'm struggling between UCF and Florida State right now because Florida State lost a lot of talent, and they're having to make up for it portal wise and all that. I'm not really high on DJ Uiagalelei. I just don't think he's a great passer. I don't think he's a great quarterback. I watched that god awful spring game that he had, and now the spring games are just spring games, so I get it. But then you got UCF. I mean, you got KJ Jefferson over there, a quarterback that beat us the year before. And look, UCF's upgraded their talent through the portal. They did really well.
Yep.
And I think just me overall, it's not me trolling. It's not me making fun. I just think UCF's going to be harder than Florida State this year. Like, and now, unless Florida State just is some anomaly team and they recruited really the portal gets that they got in the portal are just phenomenal. It's the quarterback situation really with Florida State that really just, I don't know. Maybe he takes the next step. Maybe DJU is a completely different quarterback from what he's been the past. I don't know. It seems like forever since he's been in college football. I just can't see it right now. Maybe we get on later on into the year. I would say probably Florida State. Then I'd probably go UCF in my opinion.
Okay. So there's your 4 wins. Samford,
Miami,
Mississippi State, UCF, Florida State. So there's your 4.
Kentucky, we've got to beat them.
Okay,
I know they got Vandegrift now, but still got to beat Kentucky.
Right, Kentucky's 5.
Tennessee at Neyland Stadium. They beat us last time we were at Neyland. It's Tennessee. We usually beat Tennessee. We should beat Tennessee.
So Tennessee's your 6th?
They've gotten better, though. But I would put the Miami win before the Tennessee win.
Okay. So Miami would be, if Florida gets to 7, Miami would be your 7th win.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it falls out that way, that means Florida losing to Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss.
Yeah. I mean,
and Texas A&M.
No,
if Florida wins 7, that would have to be the only team left.
Yeah. If they win 7, if they win 8, I would put A&M as the 8.
Yeah.
Georgia, a lot of talent. If you pull off that game, that's a shocker. It's same with Texas. LSU always has their number. We're there. Tennessee, for some reason, Ole Miss recruited really, really well in the portal. Lane Kiffin's an offensive guy too. I think they're going to be really, really good this year. So that's why I kind of picked more of the left side of the schedule first than the right side.
For me, and then we'll go closer to the season of like final predictions or whatever. Tennessee is where I'm circling Tennessee as a loss right now. That's just where, but I'm almost undefeated going into that game. Now, I think right as I'm sitting here in early July, I have Florida undefeated going to Tennessee and losing that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. The Nico thing, like I know we discussed it in Gators Breakdown. You're really high on him. I am too. I think he's a good quarterback, but how does he acclimate to college from high school? I mean, we watched the bowl game. I mean, he only threw for like 150 in the bowl game, and Tennessee pulled it off, and he led them to that victory. So you have to give him credit for that. I just need to see more with Nico. Now, if Nico comes out and starts lighting it up, then I'm going to think going into Tennessee, oh my God, we're about to face Tennessee in Neyland Stadium. We're about to go into a wrecking ball. Hopefully we can pull it out. So, yeah, I mean, I would think Tennessee, obviously, you should beat Tennessee, I think, in my mind. But I know you're really high on Nico. And like I said, if that offense is humming and you got Heupel running that offense, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, I just think it's a tough place to go where Florida is. And look, rarely does the schedule go like you think it will. I mean, honestly, 7-5. All right, good luck picking the 7 and good luck picking the 5. I mean, sometimes it really is that difficult. I think things, when I look at the schedule, things I want to see, to me, of course, you have to beat UCF. Yeah. You just cannot lose that game. If this thing is headed in the right direction, you can't lose to UCF. You can't lose to Kentucky 3 years in a row for Billy Napier if this thing is headed in the right direction. And for progress, I think Florida has to split LSU and Ole Miss. I think you have to get one of those games at home.
Yeah.
Now, who knows how the rest of like I said, this thing rarely goes out like you think. But as I'm sitting here in July, things I want to see you win versus UCF. I want to see you win versus Kentucky. And I think you have to split LSU and Ole Miss.
I think you got to beat Miami right out of the gate too. I memean, like if you lose to Miami the first game of the season and you do a Utah, then fans, they're not going to be happy. And there's going to be, if you thought it was bad right now, wait till if you lose game 1 in the swamp against Miami. Now the fans, now they're mad. Now they're angry. They
I was
want
going to say that. I was going to say that one for last. That you have to, and I know I put Kentucky as the most pivotal game. I think that was, to me, that's going to be, if the season's going to be a disaster, because that, to me, that's what that game has meant. But I do think you have to beat Miami for any chance of a successful season. I think you have to beat Miami.
Yeah, if you come out of the gate beating Miami, and they've already gotten a lot of preseason love already, especially Cam Ward being a Heisman candidate. I mean, you come out beat Miami, the confidence in Gainesville obviously is at a high. Then you're going to go into Samford. You're going to beat them. I got them penciled down as a win. You don't want to roll into Samford with a loss because nobody's going to be excited if you beat Samford at this point. They're going to be waiting for you to play A&M, Mississippi State, UCF, Tennessee. They're going to want you to play some of these guys, some of the harder teams to see, really gauge where you're at. And plus, like I said, you've got so many people returning. Second-year quarterback in Florida's system who's had 5 or 6, it seems like 6 years at quarterback. You expect them to come out and look like a team that's ready to play football, not like they looked last year against Utah. So I think, you go into the first game of the season, you lay an egg. Whew. Yeah, not good. Not a good look. And on top of that, like we talk about the win totals, like 6 wins, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not really impressed. 7, I'm okay with. I still want to see more. If you got me 8 or more, then I'm okay and I'm fine. And I feel good.
That's where I was going to go with that too, to kind of wrap it up too, about those win totals. With 7, if this schedule lives up to the difficulty some people put on it, 7 is not totally in the dumps disappointing. Like, I don't ever want to see Florida lose 5 games. But at the other end of that, if this schedule lives up to its reputation, there's going to be some good wins in 7 wins, even more if it's 8, of course. I mean, that this will take care of itself. But just because of this quote-unquote difficult schedule, if it is as difficult people say it is, there will be some good wins in a 7-win season. Yeah.
Especially like even if you lose and you keep these losses close, like if you have a close loss against Georgia and you bring them on the ropes, that's already hats off to me just based on the talent differential between Georgia and Florida. Same with Texas. LSU, if you can pull off a win against LSU and get the monkey off your back for the past, like it seems, 6 years now? This will be year 6 since we've beaten them. I mean, you get that monkey off your back. I lost to Ole Miss. Okay, if you lose that game, fine.
In their quote unquote, the year's supposed to be their year.
Right. Correct. Yes. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. You got to beat Florida State. You got to beat Miami. You got to beat UCF. You got to beat the big 3.
Yeah. You got to beat win in state. I think that will put some confidence in some people out there as well. But just overall, 7-5, just a general 7-5 record. I'm like, yuck. In year 3, I don't want 7-5 in year 3. I want a lot more than that. But I don't want to say grading on a curve but I think we realize where this program has been the last couple of years, and that would show some signs of progress. But put it this way, if it's 7-5, while I will admit there will be some good wins in there, I'm still going to have a ton of questions about the future.
Yeah, especially depending on what the recruiting class looks like, and you're losing a lot of talent the year next. You would have to do really, really well in the portal for me to even be, I guess, remotely excited for the next year if we won 7 games. And by the way, when I said big 3, I was leaving UCF out of that. So, but you got to win the big 3. You got to be all the teams in Florida, but we're part of the big 3. UCF can, whatever. But it's 7 wins. If you're able to salvage some of that recruiting class and get another top, I would say top 5, top 4, top 3, make your overall class at least into the top 10, but you're bringing in a lot of experienced talent from the portal that you can plug and play and they can play immediately. Then I'm feeling a little bit better, especially if that 2026 recruiting class, how it's taken off, keeps going the way it is with Waters and Griffin. You've got 2 pretty high up names right now in that class. If you can build off that, then I'm feeling pretty good for the future.
Yeah, and I think with that, as I said, I still have a ton of questions. I don't want 7-5, and there's still a bunch of coaching gaffes. That's just going to tick me off because it's going to be like, then what that's going to tell me is, okay, we've seen this 3 years in a row. If we get the talent, that's not going to magically stop this coaching gaffes. Do we lose 5 games because of stupid penalties, because of special teams, because of the coaching gaffes that we've seen the first couple of years? If we got 5 losses and some of those are because of that, I'm going to sit here and be thinking, oh, we've seen 3 years of this. I don't care how good the talent gets. He'll never overcome the elite teams, even if he gets that talent called up, because I keep seeing these coaching gaffes time after time after time after time.
Yeah, the biggest thing that bothers me, and I hate saying this because it sounds like I'm like taking a crap on the talent that we have now. The offensive line recruiting has been horrible. Like from a star level, it's been horrible. I'm not saying that the guys that they got won't be good. They may develop into being great, but I want to see offensive line, the line of scrimmage, get better at the star level. They did well defensive line. I'll give them credit. I'd like to see defensive line a little bit better, but offensive line's just been awful. Like it's got to get better.
If you are banking, and I think this staff is in some ways, if you are banking on development at that position, well, this is year 3. We better see development pay off. If the development is your calling card, then year 3 is when we need to see that pay off. Now you've brought in some transfers that's supposed to be some instant impact, but the guys who have been in this program, now I know strength and conditioning has changed a bit, but if the guys who have been in this system for 3 years, your Austin Barbers, your Najee Harris in his second year, your Jake Slaughters has been in this program, has played a lot of ball the last couple of years as well. Those guys, then they need to be, that development needs to pay off. That development needs to show in year 3 if that's going to be your calling card.
Yeah, and I think a good thing to look at too, especially offensive line wise and all that we got to talk about, and you're talking about development. I mean, look what he did at Louisiana Lafayette with a lot of those guys, got them into the league. Cyrus Torrance is one of the main guys we all think about when we're thinking about getting kids in the league. He brought Cam Waits over from ULL as well. How does he develop and how does he play his role in the offensive line too, futuristically? So I think there's a lot of good things you can build off of from what he did at Louisiana Lafayette. And you could say, okay, well, year 3, maybe he did need time to build. Maybe, quote unquote, Tim Brando's building the foundation thing. Maybe he needed that. Maybe he needed the development time. Maybe, I think what really, really bugs me is kind of the mistakes that he made at the beginning, especially strength and conditioning wise. Is it too late now with strength and conditioning? Is it, could it have been better? We won't know. We won't know until the season starts. But like, all I want to see is a team that doesn't miss tackles and they play with physicality, especially on defense, because defense has been horrible. They've been ranked in the hundreds in many statistical categories since 2020. That's got to stop too.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the strength and conditioning and that timeline. Look, sometimes it's not an instant fix. Like strength and conditioning is a building year on year on year on year before you see the ultimate effect. Can it be better? Sure, but is it enough in what Florida has to face this year?
Well, I mean, those young kids, they can build muscle pretty fast, man. Yeah. Somebody like me that works out at 40, it takes a lot now.
I feel you on that one, my friend. I feel you on that one. All right, hey man, good discussion. Glad Shelton was able to join. Glad you were able to be right here. There, we'll definitely do it again. But I guess Shelton had to go and all that. But what you guys got going on at Hightop?
Wednesday. We haven't discussed a format for Wednesday yet. Obviously, we'll probably have a guest on Wednesday, and if we don't, obviously it's the best day of the week, as we like to call it there on Hightop. Actually had a good weekend, man. Ending the podcast here. As I said, the bird pooped on me, so maybe that's good luck. But John Cena followed me, man. Like, who gets followed by John Cena? So he follows 800,000 people. I'm one of them. Maybe Dave, you'll get your John Cena follow here shortly as well. So, but yeah, I mean,
will I see it?
I don't know. I didn't see mine. I took a screenshot and it appeared, but then when I looked back on Twitter, I didn't see it. So I was like, what happened here? I don't know. Maybe he wears camouflage. Somebody mentioned, hey, is he a Florida fan? I was like, I don't know. He wears jorts every time he goes out to the ring. Maybe he is.
Oh, there you go. John Cena, he's an honorary Gator fan just because of the jorts.
Yeah, he's got a few pictures of him wearing blue and orange, so you never know. Hey, maybe he is a Gator fan. Maybe he watches our shows. Who knows?
Who knows? He doesn't follow me, so probably I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, we'll be there live every Wednesday, as we say on Hightop. Just look up Hightop Sports, the Flying Pig. If you're looking around YouTube and it pops up something else, Hightop Tables or something, look for the Flying Pig. Hightop Sports. Obviously, we got the webpage as well, www.hightopsport.com. That's where I post all the latest articles. Somebody commits, it's there as well. I got a vlog up there now from where I tried the Pouncey Brothers Twin Peaks whiskey. That one's up and that's running too. It's a little 2-minute vlog there. If you haven't checked that out, check it out too. But yeah, man, I'm pumped. I get pumped every Wednesday. I'm actually pumped to be on this show. It's my first time on here. So Dave, I've been friends with you forever. I've watched you since 2017. I'm obviously a big fan. We're good friends behind the scenes. So I'm really proud of your success and what you've done with Gators Breakdown, and to see us both grow together. I mean, like it means a lot to me. So, yeah, man, I'm excited to be on Gators Breakdown. Hopefully, I'll be able to be on one more time again, maybe during the football season or maybe afterwards or something like that. But yeah, man, things taking off, man. Hightop and Gators Breakdown. If you guys haven't, checked out Hightop, go ahead. And if you haven't been on Gators Breakdown Discord, go ahead and do that too. We're all in there.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't even realize you hadn't been on before because I know we've done the chats on Discord before with Gators Breakdown Plus. So it's like I was like, Dave's been on before. I was like, actually, no, not on the normal episode. I got lost in the clouds there of all the other conversations we've had on the other platforms. So
well, if you guys haven't known, Dave's quite more of a busier man than both of us anyway, because he's on like the Paul Feinbaum show and everything. I mean, Will's on the Feinbaum show, Dave's everywhere too, so he gets a lot more opportunities than we do.
Just been doing it a lot longer. Just keep on keeping on. Just keep on keeping on.
Keep on trucking. Keep on reporting the news.
Yeah. I think this football season will be my 8th. Yeah.
8th football season.
I think so.
I've been around for what, 7 of those?
Yeah. 2016 McElwain. So yeah.
Well, if I don't make a return by then, obviously I'll see you in Monmouth Woods. So we'll have that's a show in itself down there. So
yeah, for sure. All right, for the guys at Hightop, I am David Waters, host of Gators Breakdown. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining us on this episode of Gators Breakdown.